Kalen Ward stared at the small digital wallet on his old wristband, watching the number 50 blink back at him. That was all he had left. 50 credits. It wasn't much on Orbital Station 4, where even a simple meal cost half of that. But today he wasn't buying a simple meal. Today he was buying something far more complicated, a date. He let out a slow breath, the kind that carried both hope and doubt. As a single father working double shifts as a maintenance tech, Kalen rarely had moments to enjoy life. His days were filled with fixing air recyclers, sealing micro cracks in hull plates, and replacing power cells in cargo drones. When he came home, he helped his 9-year-old daughter, Lyra, with homework and tucked her into bed. Then he often stayed awake for hours, wondering how he would manage the next day. But for the first time in months, he had told himself he deserved one evening to feel human again, one evening to remember he existed outside of his duties and struggles. He had admired Mira for a long time. She worked in one of the research labs on Deck 7, often passing by his repair station with a polite smile and a warm, "Hello, Callan." She was kind, in a quiet, simple way. And her presence always made him stand up straighter, talk clearer, maybe even breathe better. When she agreed to meet him for dinner after he finally gathered enough courage to ask, he had felt something shift inside him, something small but bright, like a spark that refused to die. He wanted this date to be good. He wanted it to matter. So he used his last 50 credits. The Orbital Cafe was located along a transparent curve of the station, offering a full view of the Earth below. Blue oceans, white clouds, hints of glowing cities, every angle looked like a painting. Kalen arrived early, hoping the beauty of the place would help balance the light weight of his wallet. The cafe wasn't fancy compared to high-deck restaurants, but it wasn't cheap either. The tables were small, circular, and glowing softly with embedded lights. The air smelled like roasted herbs and warm bread. People talked in soft voices, their reflections stretching across the smooth glass walls. Kalen picked a table near the center, where the overhead lights were warm and steady. He smoothed his shirt twice, feeling a little self-conscious about the faint stain on his sleeve. It was from a coolant leak at work earlier that day. He had tried to wash it out, but coolant stains were stubborn, just like him. He kept checking the time, tapping the table lightly. His heart beat faster each minute. He wasn't used to this kind of nervousness. Fixing a broken reactor coil? No problem. Replacing a damaged ventilation shaft in zero gravity? Fine. But waiting for a date? Terrifying. Then Mira walked in. She wore a simple blue dress that flowed around her like soft water. Her hair was tied back, and her eyes scanned the cafe until they found him. She smiled. Not a small smile, an honest, warm one that filled his chest with something bright. Kalen stood quickly, almost knocking the table. "Hi, Callan," she said as she reached him. "Hi, Mira. You look great," he managed. His voice cracked a little at the end, which made him cough awkwardly. She laughed gently. "Thank you. You look nice too." They sat down, and Kalen tried to act calm. He had practiced what he would say, but every sentence ran away the second she looked at him. Finally, he asked, "How was your day at the lab?" "Oh, busy," she replied, brushing a loose strand of hair behind her ear. "We're testing new biogel growth models. It's fascinating, but tiring." "That sounds complicated," Kalen said honestly. "It is," she admitted with a small smile, "but I like it." "And your day?" "Oh, maintenance things," he said. "Machines break, I fix them. Then more machines break." She laughed again, and Kalen felt proud. He liked making her laugh. They ordered their meals, small portions, carefully chosen to stay within his budget. He hoped she didn't notice how quickly he scanned the prices before choosing. Mira didn't seem to mind. She talked about her childhood on Europa Colony, her training, her dreams of creating medical technology that could help frontier settlers live safer lives. Callan listened, fully focused. He liked how she spoke softly but with excitement under her words, like she believed the universe still had room for wonder. And yet, As they talked, Kalen felt something else. Something he couldn't explain. A presence. On the far side of the cafe, 2 tables away, sat 3 strangers. They wore simple gray suits, too plain. Almost like they were trying too hard to blend in. Their eyes were an unusual shade of silver, bright enough to catch the cafe lights. They didn't eat. They didn't speak. They simply sat there, sometimes glancing at him, or perhaps studying him. Callan told himself he was imagining things. Maybe they were tourists from another colony. Maybe they were waiting for someone. But something about their stillness made the air feel thicker. Whenever he looked at them, they looked away. Whenever he looked away, he felt their attention return. Mira didn't seem to notice. She was describing a strange experiment that involved microgravity plant samples. Kalen nodded along, but part of his mind kept drifting toward the silent table. The 3 strangers didn't smile. They didn't blink much. And one of them had a small device on the table, shaped like a flat crystal, faintly glowing beneath their fingers. Kalen tried to ignore them. He leaned in a little closer to Mira. So, what made you decide to come to Orbital Station 4? She smiled again, but this time her smile held a trace of sadness. My father is here. He's sick. I wanted to be near him. I applied for a transfer and moved 2 months ago. It's been hard, but I'm trying. Kalen felt warmth and sympathy rise in his chest. I'm sorry. That must be difficult. She nodded quietly. It is. But working in the lab helps me stay focused. He wanted to say something comforting, but the right words didn't form. Instead, he gently said, You're strong. I can tell. Mira seemed surprised by that. Her eyes softened. Thank you, Kalen. They shared a moment of silence, not awkward, but calm. A rare kind of peace that settled between them like soft dust. Kalen felt grateful. He felt hopeful. And then his wristband beeped, a sharp, cold sound. He checked it, thinking maybe it was a message from his daughter's caretaker. But instead, the screen flashed bright red, credit balance, 0 payment problem. His heart froze. The cafe had pre-charged for the meal. His account was empty. He must have miscalculated the price. His stomach tightened painfully. He tried to stay calm, tried not to panic. He didn't want Mira to notice, but she looked at him with concern. Is something wrong? She asked. No, he said quickly, forcing a smile. Just a system glitch. But even as he spoke, a service bot floated over, its voice low and polite. Customer Ward, your transaction has failed. Please provide an alternative payment method. Mira's expression changed, surprised, confused, then worried. Kalen felt heat rush to his face. Embarrassment hit him hard, like gravity suddenly pulling harder. I can fix this, he said. Just give me a second. He didn't have another account. He didn't have savings. He didn't have anything else. Before he could say another word, a loud chime echoed through the cafe. Mira's wristband lit up next. I'm so sorry, she said, standing abruptly. It's the lab. There's an emergency. I have to go. She placed a gentle hand on his arm, a brief, warm touch, and whispered, I had a really nice time. Truly. Let's talk again soon, okay? Then she rushed out of the cafe. Kalen stood there, watching her leave, feeling both relieved and crushed. The service bot hovered, waiting for his answer. The 3 silver-eyed strangers were still watching him, their expressions unreadable. He felt smaller than ever. He felt like he had reached the end of something, not just his wallet, but his sense of control, his strength, maybe even his hope. He lowered his head and whispered, I don't know what to do. But from 2 tables away, fate had already taken notice. Kalen stayed at the table, staring at the empty spot where Mira had just been. The hum of the cafe, once comforting, now felt louder, sharper. The lights of the overhead panels reflected in the glass walls, bouncing off his tired eyes. He had expected a simple, awkward moment if he failed to pay, but he hadn't expected this, a perfect night gone sideways in less than 30 minutes. He rubbed his face, trying to shake off the embarrassment. But a subtle unease crept into him. Something about the three strangers across the cafe was different, not threatening, not aggressive, but too deliberate, too calm. Their silver eyes glimmered under the lights, and the way they watched him made him feel exposed, as if every thought in his mind was visible. He wanted to leave, to run back to his small apartment and hide under the worn blankets with Lyra. But curiosity anchored him. There was something about them, something he couldn't ignore. The trio finally stood. Not together, but slowly. In a synchronized rhythm that was almost unnatural. They walked toward him, the soft hum of the cafe seeming to fade behind their measured steps. One of them, a tall figure with a calm expression and a faint metallic shimmer along the temple, spoke first. Their voice low and even, without emotion but filled with meaning. "Callan Ward," the stranger said. "We have been observing you." Callan's heart skipped. He wanted to laugh it off, but the serious tone, the glowing eyes, and the strange confidence told him this wasn't a joke. "Observing me? What do you mean?" "You are precisely the individual we have been looking for," the tall figure continued. "Your choices, your resilience, your care for another human being under extreme pressure. It defines what we seek." Callan blinked. I don't understand. Who are you? What do you want?" The second figure, slightly shorter, with equally striking silver eyes, placed a flat hand over the glowing crystal on the table. It pulsed faintly. "We are observers from beyond this solar system. Your species, humanity, is unique. It survives, creates, and endures in ways we wish to study and understand. We require someone capable of representing your kind among other civilizations." Callan's brain froze. His stomach dropped. The stress from earlier, the failed payment, the awkward exit of Mira, none of it mattered now. He was being told that he, a struggling single father with just 50 credits in his account, was somehow special enough to represent humanity to aliens. He laughed, half out of disbelief, half out of nervousness. "You're kidding, right? This has to be a prank, right? Some kind of really elaborate joke." The tallest figure shook their head. "This is neither joke nor test. You are exactly what we seek. Your compassion, your resourcefulness, and your ability to care for your child despite hardship demonstrate qualities that your species needs to be known for." Callan swallowed hard. He thought about Lyra, tucked in bed hours ago, probably asleep or dreaming of impossible things. Could he leave her for this? He didn't even know these strangers. He didn't know what it meant to represent humanity. And yet something in their words resonated. He had always believed in trying his best for the people he loved, even when it seemed impossible. I'm just a dad," he said. "I fix things. I make sure my daughter has what she needs. That's it." "You are more than that," said the third stranger, whose voice was soft but carried authority. "You embody resilience and hope. These are qualities essential to the survival and progress of your species. We observe many individuals, but few display the perseverance and care you show daily. We ask you to consider joining us as a liaison, as a representative of humanity." Callan felt the weight of the words. They weren't asking politely, they were offering a rare opportunity. One that could change his life, and possibly his daughter's. Yet fear gripped him. The words, "beyond this solar system and civilizations," made his mind spin, leaving behind the only life he knew was terrifying. I don't even know what that means," he said slowly. "Leave? Go? Where? And what about my daughter? She can't come with me. She's just a kid." The tallest figure paused, as if expecting that objection. "Your concern is natural, and it shows the care that defines you. We do not ask you to abandon her, but to prepare a bridge for your species. This is a chance to secure a future where humans are known, respected, and protected, one that ensures your daughter's life, and the life of others, can be safer, richer, and more meaningful." Callan felt a lump in his throat. He thought of the night skies he had shown Lyra, pointing out Earth's continents from the station windows, teaching her about the universe, telling her stories of stars, He thought of all the days and nights spent scraping by, barely making enough, yet never losing hope. If this was the moment to turn that hope into something tangible, could he do it? He glanced toward the empty spot where Mira had left. The abruptness of her departure, the warmth she had left behind, he realized that life was short and unpredictable. Waiting for perfect conditions never worked. He had to act. What would I need to do? He asked finally, voice trembling. The second figure lifted the glowing crystal slightly. A holographic display appeared, hovering between them. Stars, planets, and ships rotated slowly in three-dimensional space. First, you will learn. Understand our network, our civilizations, and the responsibilities of being a liaison. Then, you will share the story of humanity, our culture, our resilience, our potential. You will represent your species, attend assemblies, and foster cooperation across worlds. We will provide guidance and protection. All that is needed is your willingness to try. Kalen's mind reeled. Representation, assemblies, civilizations. This was beyond anything he had imagined for himself. Yet a strange feeling rose inside him. A quiet certainty. He had survived life's harshest moments, kept his daughter fed and safe, and managed to keep hope alive when everything seemed against him. Maybe, just maybe, he was ready for something greater. He glanced at the silver-eyed strangers, still watching him with quiet patience. And, if I say yes? He asked cautiously. You will begin your training immediately, said the third figure. You will see things beyond your imagination. And in time, your role may grow. Humanity will grow with you. Kalen nodded slowly. His heart pounded with anticipation and fear. He realized that accepting this offer wasn't about leaving his past, it was about extending it. Taking everything he had endured, every lesson learned, and using it to define something bigger. Something meaningful. Okay, he said finally. I'll do it. I'll try. The tallest figure's lips, or what resembled lips, curved slightly. Your courage is noted. You will not walk alone. This journey will test you, but it will also show you what humans are truly capable of. Kalen exhaled, a long, heavy breath. The fear was still there, gnawing at the edges of his mind, but it was joined by excitement. For the first time in years, he felt like a small spark of something larger, something meaningful, had been ignited. Where do we start? He asked, trying to steady his shaking hands. The second figure gestured to the cafe exit. Follow us. The training begins now. As they walked through the station's corridors, Kalen caught glimpses of the outside view, stars stretching infinitely in all directions, far beyond the curve of Earth he had admired earlier. He realized that even though he had spent his last 50 credits on a meal that had ended awkwardly, that simple act had somehow led him here. He had taken a risk. He had hoped. He had dared to be human, and it had drawn the attention of beings who saw more in him than even he had seen himself. He thought briefly of Mira, wondering if she would ever understand. Perhaps not yet. Perhaps it was not for this moment. But he knew he would carry her warmth with him, like a small light in the darkness. And as the silver-eyed strangers led him through the metallic halls of the station, he understood something he had never realized before. Being human meant more than surviving. It meant caring. It meant hoping. It meant daring to step forward. Even when the universe seemed impossibly vast, Kalen Ward was about to take that step beyond the station, beyond the stars, beyond the life he had known. And for the first time in a long time, he felt alive. Kalen followed the three strangers down a corridor of Orbital Station 4 that he had never noticed before. The walls were smooth and metallic, reflecting the faint blue light that ran along the edges of the floor. The hum of machinery was quieter here, almost soothing. For a moment, he forgot about the failed dinner, the embarrassment, and even Mira's abrupt departure. He had bigger things to think about now, far bigger. Where are we going? He asked, trying to sound calm. To a secure area, said the tallest figure, whose silver eyes glimmered softly. There. You will see our network and begin understanding the role you will play. Kalen nodded, though his heart pounded. His life had been ordinary, small, and repetitive. He had fixed broken engines, patched leaking pipes, and managed to keep his daughter safe. Now, he was about to meet beings from another world, beings who thought he was special. They stopped at a set of doors marked only by a glowing symbol that looked like 3 concentric circles. The tallest figure waved a hand, and the doors slid open silently. Inside was a room unlike anything Kalen had ever seen. The walls were smooth and reflective, but not cold. They shimmered with subtle colors, shifting slowly like liquid. The floor felt soft under his boots, almost like walking on a surface that welcomed him. And at the center of the room was a large holographic display, showing hundreds of stars, planets, and strange structures that rotated in a slow, mesmerizing dance. Kalen's eyes widened. This is incredible," he whispered. "It is," said the second figure. "These are the worlds we monitor, the civilizations we communicate with, and the opportunities for cooperation we create. And soon, you will be part of it." Kalen swallowed. "I don't even know where to start. I've never done anything like this before. I'm just me." "You are more than you think," said the third figure. "Humanity survives through courage, creativity, and resilience. You have shown those qualities every day, even in small acts. Caring for your child, persevering through hardship, choosing hope, these are qualities that define your species. That is why you were chosen." Kalen felt a mix of pride and fear. He had never considered that the ordinary life he led, fixing things, taking care of Lyra, struggling to make ends meet, could be extraordinary in a larger context. And yet, these beings, who clearly knew far more than he did, had seen it. He glanced at the holographic display again. "And I'm supposed to represent humanity? Like, to all of these civilizations?" "Yes," said the tallest figure. "Your role will be to share the story of humanity, to show our strengths, our values, our potential. You will attend assemblies, meet delegates from other worlds, and learn to communicate across cultures and species. We will guide you, but you must be willing to act with honesty, empathy, and courage." Kalen felt his knees weaken slightly. It was one thing to imagine meeting aliens in a science fiction book. It was another to stand in a room with beings who clearly expected him to be their representative. I don't know if I can do that," he admitted. "I've never done anything like this. I don't even know if I'm ready." The second figure's voice was calm, almost reassuring. "You do not need to know everything now. You only need to be willing to try. We will teach you what you need to know. Your experiences, your choices, and your humanity are already enough to start." Kalen thought about Lyra. He thought about the nights he had stayed awake, worrying about her future, hoping she would have opportunities he never had. Maybe this was the chance to create a future not just for her, but for all humans. "Okay," he said slowly, but with growing determination. I'll try." The tallest figure inclined their head slightly, a gesture of acknowledgement. "Good. That is all that is required." The third figure gestured to the holographic display. "We will begin with understanding other civilizations. Observe their technology, their communication methods, their cultures. You will see that humanity is not alone, and that cooperation is key to survival and progress." Kalen stepped closer to the display. He watched as a planet rotated slowly, showing oceans, forests, and cities that glowed like constellations. Another planet had structures that seemed alive, shifting and moving as if they were part of the ecosystem. Ships moved between worlds, carrying resources, messages, and sometimes people. This is amazing," Kalen said. "I never imagined this much out there." There is more than imagination can capture," said the second figure. "And soon, you will see it firsthand." Kalen's mind raced. He had always been a practical man, focused on fixing what he could see and touch. Now, he was being asked to navigate a universe that was far bigger, more complex, and more dangerous than anything he had experienced. And yet, the opportunity thrilled him. "Will I be alone?" he asked. "You will always have guidance," said the third figure, "and you will also find allies among other humans and beings who share our vision. But much of this journey will depend on your choices, your courage, and your willingness to act." Kalen nodded, taking a deep breath. He realized that this was more than just a chance to represent humanity. It was a chance to grow, to challenge himself, and to make a difference on a scale he had never imagined. The tallest figure extended a hand, and a small device appeared in Kalen's palm. It was light, smooth, and hummed softly. "This is your communicator. It will allow you to connect with us and with other civilizations. Learn its functions carefully, for it is your lifeline and your guide." Kalen examined it, turning it over in his hand. It pulsed faintly, almost as if it recognized him. "It's beautiful," he said. "It is a tool," said the second figure. "But more importantly, it is a bridge. It connects you to knowledge, guidance, and cooperation. Treat it with care." Kalen nodded again, feeling the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. He had survived tough times before, but this was different. This was a test not just of skill, but of character, judgment, and humanity itself. The third figure stepped forward. "Now, we will begin your orientation. You will observe interactions, learn communication protocols, and understand the values that will guide your actions. Take this time to absorb everything. There will be challenges, but every challenge is an opportunity." Kalen felt a mixture of excitement and fear. He had spent years worried about survival, about money, about small problems in his daily life. Now, he was stepping into something larger, something that required him to trust not just himself, but humanity's potential. He thought about Mira again. She had been kind, warm, and curious. She had reminded him that people mattered, that connections were worth the effort, and he realized that in this new role, he would need that same openness, that same willingness to see the good in others, even in species he had never imagined. I understand," he said. "I'll do my best." The tallest figure inclined their head. "That is enough for now. Rest, observe, and prepare. Tomorrow, your training will begin in earnest. You will see wonders, challenges, and responsibilities, and through it all, your humanity will be your greatest asset." Kalen looked at the holographic display one last time before leaving the room. Stars, planets, and moving ships stretched endlessly into the distance. He felt small, yes, but also alive, determined, and ready. As he walked back to his temporary quarters in the station, the silence of the corridor felt different now. It was not empty. It was full of possibilities. He thought of Lyra, of Mira, of the ordinary life he had known, and he realized that being human was not about wealth, comfort, or recognition. It was about courage, kindness, and hope. And for the first time in his life, Kalen Ward understood that these simple qualities, things he had taken for granted, were exactly what made him extraordinary. He reached his small room and sat by the window, looking out at the distant stars. The station rotated slowly around Earth, but his mind was already farther away, imagining alien worlds, new civilizations, and a future where humanity could shine among the stars. He closed his eyes and whispered quietly to himself, "I'll do it, for Lyra, for humanity, and for me." Outside, in the shadows of the station corridor, the three silver-eyed figures watched him, their expressions unreadable, but within their gaze was approval, recognition, and the faintest hint of expectation. Kalen had taken the first step into a much larger universe. And the universe, it seemed, had already taken notice. The next morning, Kalen woke to the soft hum of Orbital Station 4. The metallic walls of his temporary quarters seemed colder than his small apartment back home, yet something about the room filled him with quiet anticipation. Today was not about repairing pipes or replacing air filters. Today was the first day of a journey that would stretch him further than he had ever imagined. He dressed simply, nothing fancy, nothing flashy. Just a shirt, pants, and boots suitable for walking across the smooth corridors. He wanted to feel grounded, to remind himself that even amidst the stars, he was still Kalen Ward. A father, a worker, a human being with ordinary roots. Outside his room, the three silver-eyed figures waited. The tallest, who had first approached him in the cafe, inclined their head in greeting. Kalen, today we begin your orientation in earnest. You will witness the ways of other civilizations and begin to understand the responsibilities that come with your role. Kalen nodded. I'm ready, he said, though his voice carried a mixture of nervousness and excitement. They led him through a series of corridors that he had never noticed before. Each step seemed to carry him farther from his old life, farther from familiar comforts, and deeper into the unknown. And yet, he felt no fear, only a strange, growing determination. He realized that fear could be paralyzing, or it could push him to be better. Today, he chose the latter. They entered a large chamber, circular in shape, with walls that shimmered like liquid metal. In the center floated a holographic map of the surrounding star systems, planets glowing softly with colors that seemed alive. Small ships, shapes unfamiliar to human eyes, moved between the worlds. Kalen's eyes widened. This is the central observation deck, said the second figure. From here, you will learn about interstellar cooperation, resource management, and communication with other species. You will also see the challenges humanity will face and the ways you can help prepare us. Kalen studied the holograms. He saw worlds teeming with life, plants that glowed, cities that seemed to grow organically, creatures that moved with intelligence and purpose. He saw ships that were both vessels and living beings, responding to commands as if understanding their pilot's intentions. This is incredible, Kalen whispered. I never imagined life could be like this. You are not here to simply observe, said the third figure. You are here to learn, to act, and to represent your species. Every choice you make will carry weight. Your actions will shape how humanity is seen across these worlds. Quote, Kalen felt the weight of their words. He thought of Lyra, sleeping in her bed on the station's lower levels, unaware of her father's new destiny. He thought of Mira, whose warmth and curiosity had reminded him that connections mattered, and he realized that today was the first step toward proving that humanity deserved its place among the stars. The tallest figure gestured to one of the glowing planets on the holographic map. Your first task is observation. Focus on a society that has achieved balance between technology and nature. Study their communication, their leadership, and their methods of problem-solving. Learn what you can and be prepared to report back. Kalen nodded, trying to absorb everything. The challenge was immense, but it was also exhilarating. He had spent years fixing small problems, and now he was being asked to consider issues that spanned entire worlds. They activated a transport device, and Kalen felt a brief moment of weightlessness as he was moved across space to the target planet. When he arrived, he stepped onto soft ground that seemed alive under his boots. The air was fresh, tinged with scents that reminded him of earth forests. The sky shimmered with a color he had never seen, a soft violet that shifted as the sun moved. Kalen walked through a city that seemed grown rather than built. Buildings curved naturally, blending seamlessly with trees and streams. People or beings moved gracefully, communicating in ways that combined sounds, gestures, and colors. Everything was efficient, beautiful, and alive. He watched carefully, taking notes with a small device the emissaries had given him. He observed how conflicts were resolved peacefully, how resources were shared, and how every individual contributed to the collective good without losing their own identity. He marveled at the balance, at the respect each being showed toward others and toward their world. And then, he realized something important. Humanity could achieve this too. Not overnight, not perfectly, but step by step. Humanity had resilience, creativity, and empathy, the same qualities that had brought him here. If humans could learn, adapt, and cooperate, there was no limit to what they could achieve. The next task was more personal. The emissaries asked him to participate in a simulated negotiation with representatives from several other worlds. Each delegate had different priorities, needs, and cultural norms. The challenge was to find common ground, to mediate without authority, and to represent humanity fairly. Kalen took a deep breath. His stomach churned, but he reminded himself that he had faced impossible situations before. Fixing a broken airlock? Done. Keeping his daughter fed when credits were low? Done. Now, he had to rely on what made him human: empathy, honesty, and determination. The simulation began. Voices, gestures, and holograms filled the chamber. Kalen listened carefully, asked questions when appropriate, and offered solutions that balanced fairness and practicality. He made mistakes, of course, but he also learned quickly. Each misstep taught him something new about communication, patience, and compromise. When the simulation ended, the emissaries nodded. "You performed well," said the tallest figure. "You are learning that being human is not about perfection. It is about the choices you make, the care you show, and the courage to act. These are qualities that other civilizations will recognize and respect." Kalen felt a small surge of pride. For the first time, he saw his struggles and choices not as burdens, but as assets. The long nights of worry, the sacrifices, the determination to care for Lyra, they were the same qualities that made him capable of this role. As the day ended, he returned to his temporary quarters. He looked out at the stars, thinking about the humans he had left below and the potential of his species. He realized that this journey was not just about him. It was about humanity's chance to shine, to show that even in a vast universe, humans had courage, ingenuity, and heart. And then a thought struck him. He had spent his last 50 credits on a dinner that almost ended badly. Yet that decision had led him here. A simple choice, driven by hope and courage, had opened a door to the stars. Kalen smiled softly. Hope was a powerful thing. Even in small amounts, it could lead to extraordinary outcomes. As he drifted into sleep, he felt a renewed sense of purpose. He was no longer just a father, a repair worker, or a man scraping by. He was a representative of humanity, carrying the potential of his species in his choices, his actions, and his heart. Tomorrow would bring more lessons, more challenges, and more opportunities to grow. And Kalen Ward, the man who had once worried about 50 credits and a simple dinner, knew he was ready to face them all. Because being human wasn't about perfection. It was about caring, striving, and daring to step into the unknown. And Kalen was prepared to do exactly that. Kalen woke to a quiet hum filling the corridor outside his temporary quarters. The lessons of the previous days, the negotiations, the observations of alien societies, the simulations had left him exhausted but energized. He had learned much about communication, strategy, and the patience required to work across worlds. Yet one thought lingered above all. Lyra, his daughter, was still far below, unaware of the new path her father had embarked on. He dressed quickly, moving through the station corridors with practiced efficiency. Today, he had been invited to meet a human liaison who had recently joined the Interstellar Network, a representative who would show him how to interact with both human and alien delegates. When he entered the meeting chamber, he nearly froze. There she was, Mira. She stood at a holographic table, reviewing data streams with precise gestures. Her eyes, bright and intelligent, lifted as she noticed him. For a moment, they simply stared at each other. Then recognition dawned, and a smile slowly spread across her face. "Kalen," she said softly. "Is that really you?" He nodded, words failing him at first. "Mira, it's me." She stepped closer, her curiosity evident. "I didn't expect, after the cafe." Kalen chuckled nervously. "Yeah, about that." Let's just say life has a funny way of pushing us forward. She laughed, a sound that warmed him even after all he had experienced. You look different, stronger, confident. I can't explain it. He realized she was right. The past days had changed him. Observing other civilizations, negotiating, and making decisions with far-reaching consequences had forced him to grow quickly. He had always been resilient, but now he understood the depth of his own capabilities. I've been learning, he admitted. And you? You're part of this too? She nodded. Yes. I was assigned as a liaison for new delegates. My work involves data analysis, coordination, and communication across species. It's complex. Callan felt a swell of pride. Mira, who had once inspired him with kindness and curiosity, was now a part of this network too. She had chosen to grow, to be part of something larger. Their conversation was interrupted by the 3 silver-eyed emissaries who had first recruited him. They observed silently, their expressions unreadable but approving. Callan understood that their presence was a subtle reminder. This was bigger than personal feelings or simple encounters. You have met our liaison, said the tallest emissary. Observe, learn, and interact. She will help you understand the responsibilities that come with representing humanity. Callan nodded. I understand. Mira gestured toward the holographic table. We have an upcoming assembly with several species. Humans will attend for the first time. And your participation will be key. You'll present a summary of humanity's achievements, values, and potential contributions. Callan felt a mix of excitement and nerves. He had never spoken in front of more than a dozen colleagues before, and now he would address beings from worlds he had only recently begun to understand. Yet he reminded himself of the lessons he had learned. Empathy, honesty, and courage were his strongest tools. I'll do my best, he said quietly. The following hours were a whirlwind of preparation. Mira guided him through protocols, helped him refine his presentation, and taught him how to engage with diverse species respectfully. Callan absorbed every detail, every tip, and every suggestion. Yet he realized that his most valuable asset was not knowledge, it was his humanity. When the time came, the assembly chamber was vast. Delegates from dozens of civilizations filled the room, their appearances and forms diverse beyond imagination. Some had multiple limbs, others had luminescent skin, and a few seemed almost intangible, shifting subtly as they moved. And yet, the moment Callan stepped forward, he felt a strange calm. He began speaking, introducing himself and humanity with honesty. He spoke of Earth's struggles and achievements, of human resilience in the face of adversity, and of the small acts of courage and kindness that defined his species. He shared stories of survival, of art, of science, and of hope, carefully weaving humanity's flaws and triumphs into a narrative that other civilizations could understand. As he spoke, delegates leaned in. Their attention was not forced. It was genuine. They listened, responded, and even asked questions, which Callan answered with sincerity. He realized that the quality that made humans remarkable, the ability to feel deeply, to adapt, and to care, was recognized across the galaxy. When he finished, a wave of applause, hums, and bright flashes filled the chamber. Mira beamed at him. You did it, she said softly. Callan exhaled, feeling a weight lift. He had done more than represent humanity. He had shown that ordinary people, ordinary choices, and ordinary courage could have extraordinary impact. Later, as they returned to the observation chamber, Mira looked at him thoughtfully. You've changed, she said, not just in confidence, but in presence. You're someone people can trust. Someone who inspires. I'm glad I met you. Callan smiled, warmth spreading through him. I'm glad too. Funny how things work out. Even after a strange dinner on 50 credits. Mira laughed softly. Fate has a way of finding the right people at the right time. The three emissaries observed silently, but Callan felt their approval. He had learned lessons beyond any classroom, beyond any repair station or cafe. He had learned the value of perseverance, empathy, and hope, the very traits that defined humanity. In the following days, he continued his training and duties. He mediated disputes between species, coordinated resources, and shared insights about human culture. Each challenge tested him, but each success reinforced his belief in the power of humanity. Even when negotiations were tense, he relied on patience, honesty, and kindness. One evening, after a long day of meetings, he stepped onto a balcony overlooking the station and Earth below. The planet shimmered in blues and greens, reminding him of home, of Lyra, of the life he had left momentarily behind. He felt a deep connection not just to his daughter, not just to Earth, but to the human race. Humanity had flaws, yes, but it also had courage, compassion, and resilience. And if one ordinary man could represent these qualities to the galaxy, perhaps the species itself could achieve extraordinary things. Kalen's communicator beeped softly. It was Lyra, checking in as she often did. Hearing her voice, full of energy and curiosity, reminded him of why he had taken this journey. He smiled and promised to return soon, not just as her father, but as a man who had helped open doors to a brighter future for all humans. And then, in a quiet moment, Mira joined him on the balcony. She looked out at the stars, then back at him. Do you ever wonder if we're really making a difference? Kalen considered it. Every day, he said. But I think that's the point. We try, we care, and we take action. And in doing so, we create possibilities. Possibilities that didn't exist before. Mira nodded thoughtfully. I like that. And I think humanity is lucky to have you representing them. He laughed softly. Maybe, but I'm just a man trying to do what's right. That's all any of us can do. The stars stretched endlessly above them, bright and infinite. Kalen felt small, yet connected to everything: the station, Earth, Lyra, Mira, and the countless civilizations beyond. He realized that humanity's true power wasn't in weapons or technology alone, but in its ability to endure, to care, and to grow. For the first time since he had spent his last 50 credits on a simple dinner, he felt complete. The challenges ahead were immense, but he knew he could face them. He was no longer just Kalen Ward, single father and repair worker. He was a representative of humanity, a symbol of its resilience, courage, and hope. And somewhere in the vast galaxy, the three silver-eyed emissaries observed quietly, a faint shimmer of satisfaction in their eyes. They had chosen well. Humanity had chosen well. Kalen Ward turned back to Mira, a smile playing across his face. Fate has a funny way of working, he said. Mira laughed softly, the sound blending with the hum of the station. Yes, it does. And sometimes, it's brighter than we could ever imagine. Together, they watched the stars, ready to face the future, to learn, and to ensure that humanity would shine no matter how vast the universe became. And in that moment, Kalen knew that the journey was only beginning, but humanity, guided by hope, courage, and kindness, was ready.